Hello everyone and welcome to this channel. Introduction to CPU for PC. Today I will continue our previous discussion on early CPUs. In a previous video, I talked about Intel's 8088 CPU. Today I'll talk about Intel's progress towards more advanced Pentium CPU. If you have watched my last video on early CPUs, you may be familiar with this table below. The table has some information about early CPUs. Previously, we have learned about those CPU with 4 numbers in the name. I put a check mark next to the name. In this video, I will talk about rest of the CPUs in the list. We will start from 80186. 80186, start of a 5-digit number CPU. Intel 80186, aka as known as 186, was released in 1982. It was based on Intel 8086 CPU with a speed of 6 to 25 MHz. It had a math coprocessor 80187. 186 had PGA packaging with a ceramic heat spreader. This heat spreader was very useful as CPU generated lots of heat. The CPU had 68 pins and looked like a square. You can see the CPU photo at right. Intel 80286 CPU, also known as Intel 286, introduced on February 1982. By now, Intel CPU used over 100,000 transistors, while 8080 CPU had only 6,000 transistors. Also, many software originally written for 8086 and 8088 computer could run on 286 computer. So it became very popular. The famous IBM company used this CPU for their PC. Intel 286 had a math coprocessor named 80287. 80386, a standard was born. The Intel 80386 CPU was introduced in 1985. This CPU got different packaging such as PQFP and PGA. Photos at right shows 132-pin PGA packaging. It was widely used in workstations as well as personal computers. 80386 soon became a standard for 32-bit processor and stayed as such. This CPU could work with an optional math coprocessor aka 80387. Many 386 motherboard had an empty socket where you could mount 80387 IC. Later, 386 CPU was replaced by more powerful 80486 CPU. What happened to this famous 386? It continued to be used in embedded systems. Intel 80486 CPU, also known as 486. This 486 CPU was introduced in 1989 and it had over 1 million transistors. It had a speed up to 50 MHz, about twice as fast as 80386. 80486 had two versions, 486DX and 486SX. We'll know more about them soon. What are 486DX and 486SX CPU? Previously, we noted when Intel developed 80386, they also designed a math coprocessor which was 80387 or 387. Please note, 386 and 387 were two separate IC packages on a computer motherboard. For 486, math coprocessor IC was built into the CPU package. However, for some 486 CPU, internal processor was disabled, such 486 CPU was rebranded as 486SX. SX version of 486 was sold cheaper than DX version. Why the math core processor was disabled? There were two reasons. First, saving resources. Intel did not want to maintain a separate production line just to make a 486 CPU without math coprocessor built in. Second reason, it was found that math coprocessor inside some 486 CPU was damaged during production. So instead discarding whole CPU, Intel simply disabled the bad math coprocessor from that damaged CPU and rebranded as i486SX. You can see the photo in this slide. After 80486, Intel developed another successful CPU, 80586. It was known as P5, Pentium, or simply 586. Pentium processor was introduced in 1993. It got many improvements and used widely in personal computers as well as workstations. It could run at a speed of 120 MHz and it had over 3 million transistors. After the initial Pentium model, Intel released more advanced version of it. We will know more about Pentium and more advanced CPU in next video. I hope you found this video useful. Please subscribe and watch our upcoming learning videos. Thank you for watching.